What's up, everyone? We are back. The worst post-match podcast ever, episode 5, coming after week 8 of the MLR season. So, yeah, welcome back. Episode 5, worst post-match podcast, week 8. So, do the math. We missed a couple episodes. Deal with it. I got a normal life. I don't know how these dudes do this every week. They're collecting a check, and I have to go to work. So, it is what it is. All right, getting right into it. Welcome back to everyone's favorite podcast. Not hosted by people in suits with green screens or on the Rugby Network and by a dude in a hoodie with a weird blanket behind him. So, if that's your favorite podcast, welcome. You found the right place. This episode is brought to you by Homemade Cold Brew. And this hoodie. Shout out. Shout out 19 Special Forces Group and boom. I don't have anything new shirts or new hats today. Um, Probably by the end of next week I'll maybe have some cool stuff coming out. What are we gonna do? Opening remarks. It is 45 degrees today in Iowa in the middle of May, hence why I'm wearing a hoodie. I'm not happy about it. It's supposedly supposed to get nice and pretty here this time of year, so I will keep you posted. But I don't know. We got some sevens coming up here in the local Iowa area. I'm actually super pumped about that. Had an opportunity to kind of not really take over, but just jump in and grab the reins and take over the sevens program for the state of Iowa this summer. Going to put together a selects team featuring some of the best local talent, as well as some old fart with the podcast. Try to play some sevens this summer and see if we can make some noise. So looking forward to that. Our open tryouts start tomorrow here in Des Moines, so it's pretty exciting. I haven't, legitimately been on a rugby field since last March, right? And then obviously you pick up a non-rugby knee injury, puts you on your ass for 7 to 10 weeks, and you get a bunch of people calling you old. And you have a doctor telling you that you're old and you probably won't play again. Really lets the ego fly and, the comeback brain go into full swing now that, running again, throwing the ball around, playing some touch. You always feel like you still got it. But we're going to find out this week and these next couple weeks if your boy still got it. Let's jump right into it. We got a lot to cover. Again, as the goal, as my good buddy Aaron Castro over at the Earful of Dirt podcast told me, he's like, do everything you can to keep it under an hour. Nobody wants to listen to one asshole on a computer talk for an hour. And I was like, you know what? He's probably right. So try to keep this short, sweet, concise. I've got a very few things to share. I think a lot of stuff is just starting to come together. And I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see how the season unfolds. Obviously, what? Sorry, hold on. No, everyone can comment. Yeah, everyone can comment. So, leave your comments below if you have questions, anything you want to talk about as usual. We've got that going. And we're not going to do polls. We're not going to do streams. I don't know how you run this live by yourself with all these options. These people are crazy. You got to do this with a team. But there's no one watching right now, so I can just do whatever I want, basically. All right. But anyways, let's jump right into it. So I didn't watch the New England Austin game. I was watching NOLA and Houston. Yeah, cream settling at the bottom's kind of gross, huh? Oh well. Um, I watched Nolan Houston game. Was trying to stay updated on Austin, New England. Didn't have a lot of vetted interest in that game. Yeah, didn't really care. So I was watching Nola Houston. Was interested to see. Houston to me is like the most interesting team because uh, Houston is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with those guys. They drop 40, 50 points on LA, then another 40 ish points on Utah in a loss, 40 plus points against LA in a loss, and then come out firing against NOLA as well, but can't quite finish. Um, I like what they're doing with the back line, piecing that together. I think the Taylor Howden move to 10 was interesting. I think, yeah, I think it's pretty cool to see. I think Sam Windsor's finding a home at 12, which I don't think a lot of people would have kind of seen that coming. But I guess you could with the way the game's going, right? Like, um, just the way people have formulated their attack, where I mean, if you're just going the older traditional way of thinking, then yeah, you have this 10, 12 are both your playmakers now, and 13 is your absolute just monstrosity of a human making your yards, big carries, big hits, crash lines, switch lines. Kind of no one really does that anymore, but they're running all your hard lines. Where, yeah, if you rewind 7 years ago, it was the 12, now it's the 13. The way your alignment on defense changes with your 12 and your 13 now, so it's not quite the same as your traditionalists would have looked at back with like Ma and um, oh my gosh, I can see his face. I can't. You know what I'm talking about? Old buddy for the All Blacks, that old school 12-13 pairing. It's changed now. So I like seeing Sam at 12. I think it was better with Robbie at 10, but obviously with the Pange injury and not knowing when he's going to come back, I don't know who else they got at 15, so it is what it is. Um, and then Nola. I'm gonna just say this early. I'm gonna get it out of the way right now. Man of the match of that game. I don't know who they gave it to. I don't really give a shit. Shout out to Timothy Goulemont. Okay, a dude who kind of got a bad rap his first couple years in Austin. Maybe wasn't thought of as the most dynamic 10, physical. Kind of just kicked a little bit and played um, a French style of attack that didn't fit the team he was on and was probably portrayed not to his skill set, which is unfair. I mean, you see that in professional sports all the time. You put the wrong person in the wrong system, they're going to look like a pretty poor player. And sports is an unforgiving bitch, so that's just who you are. So I think you see a lot of people with tens. I think if you're a football person, you can relate that to a quarterback going to the wrong team. And unless you're one of 1% of 1% of half a percent of a millionth of a percent that is just the greatest of the greatest and can play in any system and it doesn't matter. If you are a very, very good player, you still need to be in the right system to showcase your skills and your skill set. And it's pretty cool, man. Like that's like a career changing event. You see old TG attacking the line, making line breaks, throwing dummies, being that like attacking 10. Obviously, I, I don't think it's any surprise that's probably coming from the tutelage of Nate Osborne. And if JP's over there in his ear, they got the other little bald Aussie dude out there that plays 10 for him. He's a very attacking style 10. He looks like a completely different player from his beginning days in Austin, which obviously Austin was a you know poorly ran and coached team and just all over the place those first couple of years with who they were going to be. This Austin team, this Austin Gillies to the Hun Elite thing that Austin was. Obviously, basically two different franchises. But cool to see. Shout out to Timothy Goulemont. That's cool, man. I love to see guys turn it around and start balling out. You could have gave it to other people. I mean, you could have gave it to Cam, but who gives a shit? No one cares if Cam gets another man in the match. Second would have been like a Kyle Bailey. Cool to see Kyle Bailey out there on the edge, playing a little more open, expansive rugby. And Nola's kind of figuring out a little bit of defense now as well. So Bobby, learn me some rugby. I'll try my best. Probably not the person you want to be learning all your rugby from. But Nola seems to be figuring it out on defense, and I think I said it 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago now. At this point, if Houston is the most interesting team to see week in week out because you don't know what you're gonna get, Nola may be second and is still strongly holding the award for giving no fucks in the best way. Like, and I say that as a term of endearment because they can make a mistake, knock ons, they can have a beautiful passage of double digit phases into the opposing team's end, make a horrendous mistake, get the ball turned, the field flipped on them in an instant, and they don't care. They just do it again and do it again until they score, until something good happens, until anything. They just don't care. Like their heads don't go down, their body language doesn't change too much. They got a couple guys who get chippy and chew each other out, but maybe that's their role and position on the team. If you pick it up from an outside perspective, it just looks like someone kind of being an asshole. But if they're the guy on the team to be an asshole, then they're supposed to be doing that. Better at it. Um, So, yeah, I mean, again, shout out Nate, Cam, Kyle, whatever culture they got going down there is interesting. I mean, they don't give a shit. They're just gonna keep playing. Um, that could be wildly frustrating if you are not used to that or part of that. But yeah, shout out to those guys. They didn't quit. They kept going. They were down, kept playing, and even within the spectator window of when you think a comeback or something can happen, they still messed that up and then just kept playing, kept coming, and eventually got the win. So that was pretty cool to see. Good job, Renola. Houston, I I don't know. I don't know if they've got the belief and the trust in the system. I I don't know if at the end you've got a group of dudes looking at someone else to do it for them. And I don't mean in some mythical, magical way. You're just there's sometimes with teams who are struggling or trying to find a win, you fall into the line of opposite of I would say what Nola is you're at a hope instead of a belief. We saw that with Austin. We've used to fall in this trap with Utah. That happened a lot with the Warriors. Um, you saw, and now you're kind of seeing it with Houston, right? They play well. They can attack. They can score. They've got some dogs. They've got the horses in the forward pack. Um, like I said, there's not many teams that position for position, everyone's much better than. There's a couple elite freaking world beater stars in this league, which is awesome, and they can shift the balance. But most of the time, if you take everyone's 15-man roster, dude for dude, I mean, whatever your flavor of the month is who you like. But if you're taking fucking Madden stats on each other, right? Like nobody's out of bounds. Out of the ballpark of competition. So I think with Houston, you have a team, and they may be hoping that a play is going to happen. Houston, Utah, Austin. I'm talking original team struggles. I guess Houston, yeah. And I think you see with Utah, they believe a play is going to happen. Um, with NOLA, they know a play is going to happen. They may not have a goddamn clue if it's going to come at the 72nd minute or the 79th and 59th second minute, but they know it's going to happen. Where with some of these teams, they just hope it's going to happen. And that may be the most long old adage question a coaching staff, a player development, general manager, culture development side of a team is how do you make that change? When does that change come? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It's sometime there's just sometime someday it just clicks. And I've been on the side of both of that. I've watched it happen at Utah. Um, there was just a moment I could probably pin it down. Chris last year called all of our asses out after the opening game against Atlanta. We were winning the entire game, and slowly but surely Atlanta started chipping back. We were making mistakes, and there's quite a few of us. Body language changed. We started looking around, looking, waiting, hoping for someone else to make a play. Um, and I remember on Monday sitting in there and being the first person to raise my hand because the first question Latho asked us was, who had the mindset, who let their mind go to a place of here we go again? And my arm shot up because we'd had moments of lying and bullshitting in that team room and not speaking up about things and not owning poor mental game for 3 years. And I was like, if I'm going to be a leader of this team, fuck it. I gotta be honest. And I remember putting my hand up. I 100%. I could probably find it. I think I did. I probably could find it on film where I could point at myself, where I like hands on my hips, looked around, and 100%. I probably said it under my breath. No fucking way. Here we go again. Because we had let a lead slip, chipped away, and lost the game at the end. But I remember after that Monday, I raised my hand, and then a couple other guys, oh yeah, I felt like that, yeah. We kind of, once one person fucking owns it, you can own it. And I remember that was a moment for us, and it was like, okay, never again. And we went on. We only got 2 more wins after that, but we went on to win, and I think you see that carry over for them as a team now with Utah. I think they're going in believing to win. NOLA knows they can win and make a play and trust each other. So, how does that happen? How do you address it? That's how it worked for us. There's a million ways, right, of how you get that weird. Oh fuck! Here we go. Oh shit! We're making bad plays. Yeah, every team's going to be different. Every culture is going to be different. But I can see Houston possibly falling into that world. Which yeah, that's rough. You don't want to fall into that. You don't want to start having that bad mental state creep in because rugby may be one of the most mentally taxing sports that and get on the board, see what you did, or fuck, you don't even use a board anymore. Get on the damn Microsoft things that you see all the NFL guys using. Watch what you did. Watch the play. Okay, how are we gonna fix this? All right, they dropped into cover 3. We're gonna run this. Okay, if we got a safety, blah 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 blah. Right, get all football on them. You don't get to do that. Out of like a hey, let's fucking go, but you are your own. You are your own entity out there of your mental fortitude and focus. So yeah, there we go. That was my soapbox for the episode. I just see it happening with Houston. I think that they may be falling into the East is just crazy. I mean, you can make an entire episode just on the Eastern Conference. And whatever I say today, I'm probably going to be wrong by Sunday night. But I mean, because yeah, what do you can't take anything away from Toronto. I mean, you lose a defensive game to Atlanta, and it's like, well, okay, you just kind of gotta amazing. No, they are both is just a defensive try. If you're going to score tries against Atlanta, you're going to build 10, 11 phases. You're going to hope that one guy is slightly off position. You're not going to get two or three guys out of position. You may get one guy off position with a shoulder turn, a hip tilt, just a head look, and a soft shoulder. And that's how you're going to score. Um, so I don't know. Toronto didn't play bad. They didn't play good. I think they made a little bit of mistakes. You definitely saw if you slow down the Argentine flair, their midfield attack is not gonna put a lot of stress on you. Yeah, I mean their forwards are good, they're solid, they're studs, but I mean they're not gonna be rumbling, bumbling, stumbling over everyone in the league, and shooting dudes out the back of rucks and bending guys backwards. They're just not going to do it. It is what it is. If that bothers you, sorry. They're just not. Um, their midfield backline is good, but same thing. They're not going to change the world. When the back three get firing, they've got a little bit of razzle dazzle that can get you. But if they're held in check and they don't have front foot ball, everyone without front foot forward ball, like we'll get to the LA game, right? Don't worry, we're building up to that, right? But if you don't have front foot go forward ball, it's pretty easy to make basically anyone look pedestrian, right? Now, if you're a top 10% player or athlete in the world, you can just make some shit happen and win things one on one. That's fine, right? Like that's why you're the best of the best of the best. But if you are at the MLR, right? Like I said, everyone is pretty even. Even LA, for all their greatness, right? You just saw, you take away two or three of them all season. That forward pack, I've been fans of those guys. Cottrell, the second row old boy from Exeter, big fans. Love those dudes. But they're not top 10 in the world players. And that's not saying anything controversial. Angus Cottrell is not a top 10 in the world flanker. He's a freaking stud, but he's not top 10. And I'm just saying, it's top 10 people, or even formerly, like a Matt Gitto, formerly AAC. Top 10 dudes who, like, they know, they've been there, they've done it, they have a different, a lot of people, I kind of take this from the jiu-jitsu world or an MMA world or some things when you talk about the best of the best. Like, there's levels to this shit. And the same thing with rugby, right? There's good, there's real good, really, really good, great, and then there's just fucking greatness. And that's why there's levels to this shit. That whole category plays professional rugby, is what I'm trying to say. So, there's levels to this shit. Coaching thing, listen, I just need you to be better. Best coaching line of all time. Be better. How do I do that? I don't know. Just be better. Thanks, chat. Um, but even outside of those guys, right? All those guys under there, if shit's not going right, it's the entire team has to fix it. There's very few players, and I think that's what people will say about rugby of the beautiful game. There's very few players and very few instances where you see one dude just take over a game. Now it happens, and it's awesome, and that is one of the reasons YouTube exists. Um, but it's rare, and it's not all the time. But it can, right? You get that one dude, you get off-footed in defense, you get ran over, broken tackle, and we're up the middle and we're off to the races, and the entire game changes. It happens, but Um, yeah, I didn't really know how to assess the Atlanta Toronto game. You just saw two good teams play with a superior Atlanta team defense, and Toronto just didn't have an answer. And I think it's kind of the same with LA and some of these high scoring teams, right? Um, there's a lot of ways that you can take away all the answers to their questions, and this is kind of corny. It's kind of, but it's like, just make your one off dominant tackles and cause a mess at the breakdown. And that simple, rudimentary element, whatever you want to call it, right? But let's just compare. Toronto was on a terror of scoring points. LA has just shithoused everyone. And what did you see both Atlanta and New York do? The exact same thing. Now, I'm going to say LA's attack is better than Toronto's as a whole. But you saw front up, one on one, dominant tackles. So defender is falling, right? If we're talking like graded level tackle, you are making contact. Defender is falling in a positive to like 45-degree fall onto the other side of the tackle, which is illegal, and tackler assist is coming in causing a ruckus. That's all that happened. Um, New York didn't play scared of LA. They made their tackles. They caused a ruckus at the breakdown, and every single time LA's ball. So what did you see the last couple? I didn't. There was half the time LA didn't even need to ruck because right two schools of thought. What New York did and what you saw other teams doing with the this, right? The if this is the ruck, I do this and then this and scoot. I'm not even gonna contest because we want all our guys on our feet. I've never been a fan of that. Maybe because I'm fucking lazy second row and old and slow now, and I don't want to chase dudes sideline to sideline across the field. Or yeah, maybe I have a lot of demons from the years of sevens of just chasing people around and making too many tackles. I don't know. But it was proven for 6 weeks in a row the ruck, tap, shuffle. Let boys, and I know this is what was said in meetings. I guarantee, boys, we're not worried about the ruck. We're going to be on our feet and we're going to get a launch and we're gonna knock them backwards. And I was like, well, fucking knocking them backwards with fast rucks doesn't do anything. I think I've stood in a meeting and said that before and had been looked at like I had three dicks coming out of my face. If you launch and knock someone backwards and then still don't contest the ruck, it's the ball's still coming out fat. Like someone's gonna be set. You're not knocking them back 20 meters. Like if it's a neutral tackle or 2 to 3, like that's not backwards. Really, it's not. Not in today's game. And that's what you saw for 6 weeks was this. Everyone on their feet. Boys, we're staying on. We're gonna have 14 guys on our feet. We're gonna shut down this LA attack. And no, you didn't. You just had a bunch of dudes standing up, chasing sideways because their ruck speed was insane. I don't remember what the stats were. I was trying to ask a buddy, but their ruck speed was sickeningly fast. And you're making soft tackles because one, if you're shuffling and you think you're on your feet, you're still not like set. And yeah, they made everyone pay. So New York said, fuck that. We're going to tackle, double tackle, drive them back, up on our feet, slow reps. So yeah, say what you want to say about, Gitz wasn't playing, which, I mean, the last time they got tested against Houston, Gitz wasn't playing. So you can't take anything away from, a former top best player in the world caliber guy not being on the field. But, I mean, that's rugby. You guys get nicked up, injuries, this, that, and the other. So you can't, Oh well, like you can't dismiss if anyone's trying to dismiss New York's win because Gitz wasn't playing or whoever else wasn't like a regular starter wasn't starting or on the bench. Like, hey, they rolled out the lineup. It's their job to roll out lineups to win games. So yeah, I don't know. That's a bunch of crap to me. Like you lost. And if anyone, and my God, for the love of God, I'm gonna say it again. I said it once. I'm gonna say it again. It's just lazy writing if we keep talking about travel. I just like yeah, it's lazy. If this is the US. This is professional sports in the United States of America. I don't know if dudes are still stuck in club rugby where you only traveled in your state or you can only drive 4 hours in a van with your team or whatever model they're looking at between England or the UK and New Zealand and Australia, half of Australia crap. I United States of America. If you've played any level of legitimate sport in this country, you travel. Like I I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't even know why it's a thing that's brought up. West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, middle, out, up, down, left, right. It's an enormous country, and you travel. You got high school kids that fly across the country to play games. Like I I don't know why it's brought up that a 5.5 hour flight to New York City can is gonna alt like this is professional sports. If you don't, I've said it again. If you don't have your training tempo built into your travel, and then your like travel flush recovery stuff built into when you get there, and you think you're gonna enter the game not ready to play, then you're failing as an organization. And your SNC team and your physios and all those dudes are failing as an organization. Like, trust me, and I know this isn't coming from the players. I get that. I get that. I'm just the pundits, analysts, writers. Like, I like most of these guys, but can we cut the shit with travel? Like, nobody cares if you play any sports at a professional, semi-professional, and a collegiate level in the U.S. You fly for 4 hours and play games. I don't know. I don't know why it's a little pet peeve for me, a little bugaboo, but I just don't get it. Like, well, they've got a hardy travel in front of them, so we'll have to be wary of that. When you're making your picks, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Utah traveling to NOLA is not a long. It's a 4 hour flight. 2 hours. It's an 8 hour day, right? 2 hours at the airport, 4 hours in the air, and however long of a shit show it is to get your bag, get the van, get to the hotel, and jump in the pool, get on the air leg thingies, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just tired of hearing about it. But anywho, moving on. We got 2 games down. What was our next game? Utah. Utah game. I said before, I was actually sitting there. I was watching that game with my wife. Actually, she is still a weirdo Utah Warrior fan just because she knows people on the team. Um, and I was saying before the game started, I would say that Utah and DC may be the most even teams in the competition. And I don't know if that's everyone's opinion, but when I look at those two teams, and I may be biased because Threaten plays for DC, and I probably am putting, some sort of weird thing together, but whatever. Um, but just their style of play, the type of athletes they have, in certain positions, um, they're very similar. They both play what you would call like a Southern Hemisphere style of attack and defense, and yeah, and the game basically played out that way exactly. Two very evenly matched teams. Um, you had questionable calls for both. I was obviously, you know, very boisterous on the old Twitter that Scott Green is the goddamn king of the not straight call. He's also the king of the uncontested not straight. And again, I'm biased. This entire show is my own bias. I try to be fair, but I am biased. As a lock, excuse me, as a former lineout caller and a former lineout defender by default, if the other team does not jump to contest a lineout and it is anywhere, right, tunnels over here, if it is anywhere marginally not straight from the left hemisphere of my body to here, you ain't getting the fucking not straight call. Like, oh, I'm so, like, that is, I'm tired of it. Like, what are you calling that for? If they're all standing here, you know, ready to stop them all, and you don't even get someone on their tiptoes trying to defend against the ball being thrown in. And now, don't get me wrong, right? What I said. If the tunnel's over here, or did I do it opposite? I don't remember. If the tunnel's over here, and yeah, you throw it over here, okay, right, sanctity of the game, laws, cool. But if it is anywhere from my nipple to the tunnel, give me a fucking break with these not straights. Like, especially if they're not jumping. And you can absolutely interpret the laws any way you want and decipher that call. If you ain't jumping and you don't contest and it is marginally within the body towards the tunnel, give me a break with these not straights. I'm tired of it. Right? Again, bias. Lock, second row. My life, existence of rugby is built around the line out, and like 10 years ago was running people over. But those fucking days are over. So it's built around the line out. But again, I'm biased. I like Scott Green. He's a good ref. But he is the king of the uncontested not straight. I give him shit to his face every time I possibly can. So don't think I'm hiding behind the screen. One, I used his name and added him, right? Also, big thing for me, I will always if I don't know your on